Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Forced to Eat Fancy. Many years ago, I got put on a work assignment for months that required me to travel to New York City and stay every Monday to Friday. I was assisting a company manager with a project, and my hotel was near his regular office in the theater district. If you are not familiar, the theater district is heavily built for tourists. Restaurants are generally kind of fancy and expensive. There were really not any quick and cheap options for dining in that area. The company had a generous meal policy of up to $30 to $40 per meal for travel expenses. I did use that for a bit, but the food got feeling too indulgent and kind of ridiculous given that it was an extended assignment. Also, I was working really long hours and did not want to go sit in restaurants. I just wanted to go watch TV and sleep in my room. So after the first week or so, I instead went to a grocery store on Monday night. I bought some basics for cereal, sandwiches and snacks, and some frozen meals I could microwave for lunch in the office. It cost about $60. I then took a few cans of soda from my hotel fridge to make room for my weekly food purchase and returned them before checking out at the end of the week. And that was it for food costs, with an occasional meal out here and there. I did the same for the next 4 weeks and submitted my expense report at the end of the month. You know where this is going. A lady from accounting called and refused to reimburse my expenses because $60 is more than $40, the max allowance for a meal purchase. I explained that it covered 5 days of food, but was told it didn't matter. I then spent the next month trying all the food in the neighborhood. There really weren't any cheap options. I went out to eat a few mornings, lunch whenever I found time, and dinner absolutely every day. I could have bought a few installments of groceries, but the once per week shopping convenience was part of why I wanted them. It had also seemed wasteful for me to go out for an expensive meal every night for long-term travel, but now I'd been told that this was preferred by accounting over my grocery bills. The next week I got a call from my New York City manager, asking how I'd run through more budget every week of the month than the entire month before combined. I explained the grocery situation, and he thanked me and hung up. About 10 minutes later, the same lady from accounting called me. She told me they'd pay my still not reimbursed grocery bill and any going forward, as long as the daily amount averaged for the week was under the aggregated meal allowance. I happily returned to a more reasonable diet. The next story is called Leave Compliance. We once had a manager in IT who was promoted when a previous one moved on and up. The old manager was very techy, not so much a people pleaser. So he got on with us really well and left us to deal with stuff. The new manager comes in and he doesn't know anything about IT. But he is so good at brown-nosing that management calls him in when they run out of toilet paper. He comes in and becomes a break and holiday dictator. He blocked all staff from taking leave September, October and February leave, and then berated us in November for not taking leave. Leave was renewed in August. He also changed it so we couldn't take more than a week's leave without 6 weeks notice. We had 35 days leave a year. Cue malicious compliance. 3 of us worked a later shift, until 8 PM, 2 guys and a girl. We got on fine, would tell each other about wanting to take leave and stuff like that. The girl found out she was pregnant and told us. We worked out with her when she'd be going on maternity leave, and both of us guys applied for 4 weeks overlapping the same dates for the first month when she'd be off. I actually needed that time off because it was the school holidays. The other guy didn't have kids. Our leave went through, approved, and a month later she told the manager that she was pregnant and applied through HR for maternity. Suddenly there was a gap in the year when there would be no cover for almost a month, and there were evening events that needed IT support. The manager frantically called us to cancel the leave. I told him it was the holidays and he couldn't cancel the leave. The other guy did him dirty. He had booked a holiday, paid extra to allow cancellation, and told the manager that the company would have to cover the cost of the cancelled holiday. Cost him £2,000 for the cancellation, when he only paid £35 admin fee. He spent the money on another holiday and took us 2 out for a meal. The manager was royally chewed out by senior management for mismanaging a leave and staff. All the more poignant because he had been telling them that we didn't really need the evening shift. The third story is called A Deal is a Deal. I work at a credit union and we use a fancy online system to validate checks. It was designed by the guy from Catch Me If You Can. If they are over a certain value, we run them through the system and they come back either clear or with a hold recommendation. At this point we do some research on the account and decide for ourselves whether to put a hold on the check or deny it if it gives us the release. So this day is a pretty steady one, and I'm holding down the teller line while my colleagues take lunch. A woman walks in with her partner. Her face is, soon understandably, a bit of a mess, and she looks visibly upset. So she hands me a check for 65k and asks to deposit it. Sure, I say. Just as a heads up though, there'll probably be a couple of day hold on it, just because of the amount. How long? The boyfriend suddenly asked. Bear in mind he is not on the check and he is not on the account, so it's exactly nothing to do with him. I'll do the best I can for you, I say very deliberately to her, directing my responses to the account holder after all. But based on the amount, you're probably looking at about 5 to 10 days. It's a security feature to protect you in case the check bounces for any reason. She nods shyly in understanding, but he butts in with, "No, that won't work, I need that money this weekend." "Babe, it's fine, we were going to save it anyway," she says quietly. "No, I told you I wanted that charger now that we have the money for it," he responds. I do my best to roll my eyes internally and just decide to busy myself running the check. That's when I notice what it is. This is a life insurance check for her dad. All the pieces started to fit together now. Her dad had died, most likely very recently, and this was the check she had to remember him by. And this great A jerk wanted it for a new car. So I started a malicious compliance to deal with him. "Okay, I'll make you a deal," I begin. "I think this needs to go on hold because of the amount, but being as it's coming from a variable source, our system might clear it. Here's the deal. If you don't want to take my 5 to 10 days, we'll run it through the system. Take whatever it says and do that. So it might go straight in." Got gifts to dating asks. "I've seen it clear bigger checks, yeah. If it thinks the source is good enough, then yeah," I say. This was technically true. I have seen bigger checks cleared by the system with no holds. But never an insurance check. They are too easily forged and too often, and it makes our system very paranoid. "Alright, that's the deal," he says. I ignore him, shoot her a knowing glance and say very carefully, "Is that okay with you? It is your check." She must have picked up on what I was putting down, because she agreed very readily. Ran the check, extended 30-day hold recommendation. I enjoyed watching the color drain from Casanova's face, catch the first smile on hers I've seen since she walked in, and offer him some wisdom. Whenever you gamble, my friend, eventually you lose. I'm really very sorry for your loss. Whatever, he spits out. I was speaking to her, I clarify. The way I see it, I just bought that poor girl 30 days to get rid of him. The last story is called Bad Manager Wouldn't Listen. This happened many years ago at my retail job. I was working in the fitting rooms on a Sunday morning at about 11:45 when it was still relatively quiet. Usually it gets really busy from 12 PM onwards. And though the store manager had given me a rail of last season clothes to mark down, I still had to keep the fitting rooms tidy and free of returns. I was also starting on the back foot, because the person who'd been in there on Saturday night had left a whole trolley of stuff I had to sort out and hang up before I could put it away. So I was focusing more on the returns, but anytime I had to go back in and answer the phones, I'd do another section of markdowns on the rail. Just after I'd put some footwear returns away and was heading back to the fitting room, I noticed a pretty significant problem in the footwear section. I took 2 to 3 steps towards it to go to fix it, only to be accosted by the store manager coming around the corner. "What are you doing?" "I just finished putting some returns away." And I just, "Have you finished those markdowns I asked you to do?" "Not yet, but Well, get back in there and do it." "I'm going to, but I just need to." "No, you don't just need to do anything except the job I'm paying you for. Now get back in there, do those markdowns and stop wasting time wandering around out here." "Okay." And with that I went back to the fitting rooms. Over the next half hour or so I could hear the store manager being paged to go to the front registers a lot. This might usually happen once a shift, if that, but from what I could hear over the PA system, she was having to go up there every 5 minutes. At 12:30 she comes storming into the fitting rooms. Who was working stock and footwear? I don't know. Well, find out. They put out some new boots, but didn't take the price down for the thongs that were there before. Side note to non-Australians. When I say thongs, I'm talking about the rubber footwear worn in summer, not the skimpy underwear. So I've just had to let nearly all those pairs of $50 boots go through for $12. Oh, yeah. What do you mean, oh yeah? I saw that the price was wrong earlier. Well, why didn't you fix it? I tried to, and I tried to tell you it was wrong, but you told me to stop wasting time and get back in the fitting rooms. No real fallout for me. But apparently the footwear stocker worker got torn a new one when they came back from their break. I like to say the store manager learned from her mistake. The problem could have been identified and fixed a lot earlier. and therefore a lot more cheaply, before 10 to 15 customers took advantage of the price screw up if she hadn't decided to go on a power trip. But anyone who has worked with managers like that knows she learned absolutely nothing. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.